Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Wendy Mccready on the podcast with us. She's coming to us all the way from Newcastle in England. She's also the UK's longest serving IFBB pro bodybuilder. She's also an online coach and a personal trainer, but most importantly, she's our current guest. Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you and motivated you to make that change and adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
I started getting into the weights when I was 17 because I was really slight. I was very slight built. I was only like 100 pounds. Do you guys work in pounds or kilos? So maybe it's like 45 kilos, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
So I used to do karate and I used to have to go to the gym to get stronger. Mm-hmm. So that's how I fell in love with the weight training.
Yeah. And I mean, I always ask, because I always love to make the statement that if you were to go to a gym with 100 people in it, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into the shape they're in, whether it comes down to their diet, I mean, their training, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. I mean, there are hundreds of things that add up to the individual package that people end up seeing. Was that hard for you when you were getting started, sort of realizing what worked best for your body? Because I always say, if you were to walk up to someone and say, like, what did you train for that body part? That body part looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time won't work as good for you.
When I started off, I was only young, and I was the only female in an all men's gym. And luckily for me, this guy who worked at the gym, he kind of took me under his wing. So he kind of trained me. So it took the thinking out of it at that time for me. So I just did as I was told, basically, and I responded well. Mm-hmm. So, but obviously now it's different. And as I grew older and I became to research it more and watch other people train, yeah, it can be very confusing. But I've always had quite a lot of people in my corner to guide me, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of definitely the keys that I could tell anyone out there for, what you could do. I mean, definitely get as many people in your corner as possible, because I mean, that really, really helps out, I think, when it comes to, just staying motivated and still, having that passion with you. But I also love to ask, I mean, because everyone's genetics are differently, so it always makes this answer very, very interesting. But when you were getting started, what was one body part that really took off for you that you really didn't have to train as much? And then everyone always has that one body part that lags behind where, they got to train into overdrive to get it to catch up with everything. What was that body part for you? And I mean, I'll give my examples first. So, I mean, for me, my back, I mean, I could train back, once every month and it would still look really, really good. But I'm also 6'3". So, I mean, my legs are just, I have those leg problems where I had a pitcher's build too for a baseball pitcher where you're supposed to be long and lengthy and a little lean. So yeah, getting those legs to really catch up they're not even that cut up in my opinion, but I mean, it still is a huge work in progress. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
Well, to be honest, I've never trained any body part less. I've never skipped body parts because it's a good body part. I've always still trained it regardless. But the easiest parts to go on me probably my arms at the beginning. There's nothing I've really struggled with. Probably is my calves, only because my quads grew so quick. But once I train them properly, then everything's kind of even,
Yeah,
I train each body part equally. So
yeah, I mean, I always hate those people with just those genetically blessed calves that you can tell that they've never worked a day in their lives for them, because that's one of those body parts where it is almost 99% genetic. So yeah, that is my number one pet peeve, where it's just like, oh, when I see those people, I'm just like, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. But how long into your journey before you finally decide, like, hey, I could do a bodybuilding show? Like, this is something that I think I'd be interested in.
You know what? It took me 6 months.
Wow.
To decide that. Well, originally I was meant to be going to watch a friend compete, and she was twice my age. And then she said, listen, she says, if I'm competing, why don't you compete with me? I had not got a clue what I was doing, but I said, okay, this could be cool. So there I was, my first bodybuilding show after maybe I think 10 months of training. I was 19, so.
Wow, that's so awesome, because I always love to, tell people that aren't into bodybuilding that are listening to this, just to be able to get into shape to go into your first prep, I mean, takes so much hard work and determination that, I mean, a lot of people would never, ever reach that point. But going into a prep, I mean, that is notching things up to just an extreme level when it comes to, you got to get all of your workouts in. Your diet has to be perfect. You got to eat the right amount of food at the right amount of times. Was that a struggle for you when you were starting out, and how has that evolved since you've been competing for such a long time?
No, if I'd be lying if it was a struggle. I'm extremely disciplined mentally, and that's probably what's got me to where I am today. Not necessarily the way I train or things like that. It's all up here, and I'm extremely self-disciplined. So if it's difficult, it just encourages me to push even harder. And I've never cheated once on my prep diet, not once. The more difficult someone throws something at me, the more I respond.
So how have you done that? I mean, never cheating once on a prep. I mean, because I don't care. I mean, I'd call you a liar if you said you never had that one time where you just felt like, hey, I really need to. I'm just really hungry for something else other than that. But what are some ways that mentally you've sort of tricked yourself into just saying like, hey, this is all worth it? I mean, if I cheat now, they could lead to a downward spiral. How have you been able to maintain that mindset?
I think it's just I don't like being beaten, and I like to know when I get on that stage, I've given my absolute everything. And if I stand on that stage and I think, oh, I should never have cheated, I should never have skipped cardio, blah blah blah, then I've only got myself to blame. I need to know that I've done absolutely everything possible I can to get onto that stage. And the thing is, if I have cheated, then the girls who I compete against, what if they haven't cheated? So I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. So, and I like the mental challenge as well. I mean, trust me, I get hungry. I have cravings. I dream about food. I even watch food programs on the TV.
That's just torture.
Yeah, I was doing cardio. But really, you could throw me in a room full of pizzas, and I would not touch a mouthful.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would depend on those type of pizzas, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, I would lose all willpower, which I mean makes it so much more inspiring when we have bodybuilders on, just because their determination, their drive, is just really one of those things that I think separates them from the average person. But when you
Yeah.
were competing, I mean, competing in bodybuilding has drastically changed so much from when you started when you were 19 to now when you're 41. What, in your opinion, has been the biggest change since when you started to where you are now?
I would say, especially if being female, that the lack of female bodybuilding around now, um, and the more categories is advanced. I mean, when I first began, there was lightweights, middleweights, heavyweights, female bodybuilders. There was fitness girls, and there was guys, and that was it. But now we've got like hundreds of different categories, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm a bodybuilder. That's
Yeah.
like old school, so, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, because honestly, yeah, I'd say the majority of my guests have been, like bikini or figure girls. But yeah, it's always nice because it is rare. It's hard for me to find, the female bodybuilders, and it's because like it has been something that has been going down. But when that big decision was made to sort of take bodybuilding out and replace it with physique, or to take it out of like competing wise, where I mean, obviously there's still female bodybuilding shows, but it's not part of the federations as like physique is. But what was your motivation to still stick with bodybuilding and not just maybe go to physique? Because we had so many people that then had that tough choice where like, do I either go to physique or do I stick with bodybuilding? What was that like for you?
Yeah, to be honest, and I'll be honest, I did try physique in 2015. 2015, I tried physique, but I hated it, and I didn't like the fact that I couldn't train as I like to train. I couldn't push myself in the gym as much as I want to on certain body parts like my legs, my arms, and I couldn't be. It sounds a bit strange, but I couldn't go as strict with my diet. And I'm the type of person where if I'm in, I'm all in. I can't do things half-heartedly. So we have this phrase in our gym I train that it's called 100% or nothing. That's our logo, and that's me. If I can't give it everything on everything, then to me there's no point. So I didn't actually enjoy either the prep or actually the competing side of it. So the year after, I went back to bodybuilding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because it is. I mean, for a lot of the bodybuilders too. I mean, they already have that such a big and strong physique that it's really hard for them to sort of dial it down a little bit and sort of lean out
especially when you've been training for years, you get that muscle maturity and it just will not go.
Yep.
And I kind of checked myself and thought, hang on, I haven't been training this hard and sacrificed all this to lose it. So I went. It didn't last long. I think it lasted about a year, and then I went. That was it. Back to bodybuilding.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, yeah. If you're so used to something, I mean, it's very, very hard to get that body to adjust. But I always love to ask because I know I'm one of the palest people that you ever meet, being from the upper Midwest in the U.S. I've never been tan a day in my life. I mean, I either get farmer's tan, which, let's be honest, that's not a real tan, or I just get burnt to an absolute crisp. So for you, what is that experience like putting that tan on? Because I mean, we have so many people talk about, like how you see muscles that you never even knew that you had. Everything really seems to pop out. What is that feeling like for you?
Well, I'm kind of used to it now. but I'm obviously rocking the winter white look right now.
Yep.
But as soon as, like, say, March time comes, I use the tanning beds and things like that. But the actual process of the spray tans on the day of the show, it's probably is my worst part of the show. Basically because we're fatigued, we're hungry, we're cold, and standing there with freezing cold spray tan on. But obviously the end result's worth it. So, but it's my worst part of the competition.
I always said that was the most shocking thing for me to hear is how you guys got that applied at the shows. Like I would have never guessed that in a million years. And yeah, just like when you're talking about, I mean, when you're really leaned down and you get cold stuff on you, I mean, we had that polar vortex that just came through us last week where it was negative 60 degrees wind chill where I was. So yeah, I am not going to be lean at all when that comes by because you're going to freeze to a frozen crisp, first of all, a lot quicker. So that's why I always put on, about 10 to 15 pounds every winter just so that I'm able to absorb a little more of that cold so I just don't become, a frozen popsicle as soon as I touch that air. But yeah, that's definitely one of those processes where I just, people just don't realize that you also have to become like a statue, basically. You can't touch anything. You can't sit on anything. You have to be just stationary for a long amount of time. So it just, adds on more to what these bodybuilders go through. But now the most surprising thing that I think I learned, and I think a lot of people that listen to this have learned, because if you were to poll the general public, I mean, and you were to say what for these competitors is the hardest thing, I don't know if anyone would ever guess that posing for so many of these competitors is the hardest thing. I mean, I always like to compare it to, I mean, you can be a great driver, you can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser, you can never be a perfect poser. It's always something that's ever evolving. But what has your experience been like with posing? Has it always been, a sort of a challenge for you, or was it one of those things where you adapted to it early and it's been easier for you as time goes on?
No, I actually really enjoy posing. But I've been taught from an early start from some really, really good posers over here in the UK. So I adapted to it very well. And I think a lot of that comes from my martial arts background with the movement patterns and, being body aware of your environment, stuff like that. So I actually move quite well and I really, really enjoy posing. I guest pose at places and things, and I teach people and myself. But it can be so nerve-wracking for other people who actually, especially guys who just don't have that
grace.
natural. Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, like, if I ever did, I mean, I'm too tall for that, basically. Where like if I tried to show any elegance or grace, I would just flop, and it would definitely it would be bad. But I mean, for posing wise, has that changed at all since you got started to where you are now? Has the bodybuilding has your posing routine, I mean, changed, or has the mandatories changed, or has just the requirements for posing changed since you got started to where you are now?
The requirements haven't really changed for us. The mandatories have stayed the same. My posing routines have changed over the years. From personal choice, I used to do things. I was known as Gladiator Girl when I was guest posing, so I used to do like more gladiator themes, and then change into something fast and upbeat. But now I kind of pose from my heart, and it's quite emotional when I pose now. And it gets everyone's always in tears when I end up posing. And I do it for my partner as well, so it's everyone can connect. I want the audience to connect with me, and it seems to go quite well.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And what is your favorite pose to do, and what is your least favorite pose to do?
I just love posing. Probably the worst one is an abs and thigh pose. There's nothing really graceful about that pose. I love a side tricep, and I don't know. It depends how your shape is. You've got to emphasize your strong points. And I think anything else powerful but still graceful. To try and capture that look,
Yeah, by far our favorite answer for least popular is abs, just because it is one of those weird ones where, I mean, it's hard to get that down perfectly, and it's hard, it makes you look kind of a little weird too when you're doing it. So yeah, that's definitely one of our most popular. But yeah, it's really just fascinating because I mean, I love having, for women wise, I love just having a bodybuilder on every once in a while, just because they do the mandatory poses that, I mean, all of the guys that I have on do. So I mean, because I always ask, like the figure girls, I mean, like, out of your 4 quarter turns, what is your favorite quarter turn to do? So it's like, I mean, it's kind of different. So it's nice to have that nice wide variety. But I love to ask this question to all my guests that I have on, whether they be, like my up and coming bands, musicians, professors, or just, my health and fitness people in general. So for my bands, I always ask, what is that feeling like performing live on stage in front of, hundreds of people to thousands of people? But that also applies to my bodybuilders as well. What is that feeling like for you when you get to, go on stage and show off all of that hard work that you've worked months for?
You know what? You can't buy that moment. From when you're ready, when you're happy with yourself, and you feel like you've done everything, and you walk out onto that stage, to me, it's the perfect moment. It's unbelievable. It's like, it's surreal. It's I can't really describe it. The smells and the what you can see and the noises. It's my best feeling ever. It really is.
Yeah. And I always tell people, it's like, find that one thing in your life that makes you feel like that, and just stay with it. Because if that's one thing that I can give from this entire podcast, I mean, it's just find that passion. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding. It doesn't have to be, whatever anyone else is doing. Just find that. And I mean, that's honestly what's going to really help you out in life. But now we go to one of my fun questions. What is your go-to post-show meal?
Well, it's changed over the years. It used to always be pizza. Like, I would say like pizza, but now it's burger.
Do you have a go-to place that you like to go for your burger?
We just go where the girls go, where we hang out with each other. So anywhere local, anywhere that's near, close by, so we don't have to travel too far from the venue. So,
have you ever been to a Five Guys Burger and Fries?
We've been to one over here in the UK.
Yeah.
I wasn't that impressed.
Well, I was going to say then, because you probably haven't been to one from the States, though, because as you can tell, I mean, probably from being over here, the portions are a lot bigger and food does tend to taste a little bit better.
It's way better.
A little bit better over there. So, yeah, I highly recommend next time you are in the States, if you have enough time or whatever, go to a Five Guys. I mean, they should be all around. Yeah, that I always said if I ever competed, I would just basically rent out a Five Guys for the night and just say, you know what, here's what's going to happen. You're going to feed me until I either die, pass out, throw up about 10 times, or I just explode. But either way, I'm putting like $1,000 down. I'm just going to say we're going to use up all this until it goes out food-wise. But yeah, that would be definitely what I would do. But now, I mean, one of the important questions I think that I love to ask on this show, because it is not talked about, enough on Instagram, I don't think, is people don't realize. I always give the example. So I was at a New Year's Eve party, and one of my friends came up to me and said, like, Ryan, I really love watching the podcast. It's really, really cool. But I was surprised. Like, I never knew that these bodybuilders, I mean, that look is not, that they don't keep that look 24/7. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that you are not going to be able to look that lean, and you're not going to look that vascular and that muscular, 365 days out of the year. It's just not possible. Was that a struggle for you when you were getting started, sort of just realizing, like, hey, I am not going to be able to look this great all these months upon months of hard work? I mean, this is not something that I can still maintain. Was that ever a difficulty for you to sort of realize that? And how has it gotten better as the years have gone by, just sort of realizing, like, hey, I am going to have to put on weight after a show?
Yeah, I mean, at first it's a struggle, and you do have to go, especially for a woman. It's unhealthy to stay lean. Like, it's impossible. It really is impossible. You'd be end up in the hospital. So you've got to be prepared to get fluffy, so to speak. But I've took it in the past to the extreme, and I've been really out of shape. Where now I think I've got my muscle maturity, so I don't really get really crazy out of shape now. There's certain body parts of me that do stay vascular, forearms and arms and stuff, and my face doesn't go as fat as it used to. My face used to be like this, but I think as I've got older and I've got like more muscle tissue, then I don't get as heavy off season. But a lot of that's in your head as well. So
I always tell my guests on here, it's like, we've had so many times where people are like, oh yeah, I feel like I look fat now. And I'm like, no, you're still more leaner and in better shape than 99.9% of the population. So that's another thing. And plus, I've also dealt with a little bit of, body dysmorphia, where I've had times too where I'm talking to friends and I was like, what do I even look like? And they're like, oh, dude, you look fine or whatever. Where it hasn't gotten as extreme, for a lot of the bodybuilders. But for me, I've even had times too where I was just like, what do I even like? Do I even look like I even like work out or whatever? So yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that. And it's really important to just let that out too, because so many people just don't realize that. So I've had so many contestants that, well, first of all, you got to get a coach when you're competing, first of all, nowadays, especially, because I've had so many people that, come on who didn't have a coach, and then after their show, I mean, they start putting weight on, they don't know what's wrong with it, what's wrong with them. But yeah, it's definitely, because I had a female bodybuilder on here that came in at 2% body fat, and I was like, oh well, there's no way that you would ever be able to maintain that. So I was like, yeah, you are going to have to put on weight. But yeah, it definitely is a struggle that a lot of people have that needs to be talked about a lot more, because a lot of times, like you said, sometimes you meet like bodybuilders or just even like the bikini and figure girls in public, and they don't look like they compete, because they're in their off season. So it's like, a lot of people just don't realize that. So yeah, that's why I love to bring that up. But what do you think has really made it possible that you've been able to be, the longest serving IFBB pro bodybuilder from the UK? What do you think really makes you stand out from everyone else that has given you that longevity that a lot of people don't have?
For the love of it and the passion. I'm still improving, and as soon as I lose that love for it, then I would step back from competing. I'll always train. I love training. That's the thing. I think a lot of people do it now for social media, for gratification
Yep.
from, for even from peers and stuff, and they're in it for a shot. But once they find out how difficult it is, then they're not so keen. But I absolutely love the challenge, and I love training. I'll train forever. It's that constant thing of pushing yourself, the challenge of it against yourself. I mean, don't get me wrong. Once I start like going back over, and I think, right, okay, my best days are over. I can't repeat my best days. Then I will call it a day on the stage. But for me, at the minute, I'm still improving from year to year. So as long as I'm improving, as long as I have that love, then I'll keep it going. But I definitely think it's the passion, and it's my life really.
Yeah.
It's dedication. I mean, I've sacrificed a hell of a lot to get here, but I keep healthy as well. So I've got a nice balance as well.
Well, and like I say to a lot of people, it's like you are not going to make a lot of money if you get into bodybuilding. So it's definitely one of those things too, where the passion really has to be there. If you say I'm going in there for money, it's like, well, yeah, good luck with that. You'll realize after probably about a couple months that you're like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that if you're going in there just for money. So yeah, it takes so much passion, which is why I think I love having especially bodybuilders on, because it is one of those sports that is so underappreciated, where people don't realize that. I mean, you are going to lose money actually, probably for a lot. I mean, 99% of people when you go in there. So yeah, it is. So yeah, it really is a passion project.
I mean, when that alarm clock goes off at 4:30 in the morning for cardio, it's pitch black outside. You've got to go outside, do your cardio, train twice a day. You're on limit calories. You're so tired, and but for the love of the game, we do it.
Well, and that's why I always love to say I love having the bodybuilders on, because sometimes, I mean, I work nights, so sometimes I get home and I go to sleep by the time these people are getting up to go and do their cardio. So it's like that. I mean, if that doesn't really just wake me up, where I'm just like, oh my god, these people are actually getting up at this time when I'm going to bed. So yeah, that if that in and of itself, I mean, that is just so amazing. But at what point in your journey did you decide that you wanted to become a personal trainer? Or was that something that you always kind of wanted to do?
I think I just adapted into it. I think because obviously I love training. I love the body and how the body works and functions. I've always been intrigued by. Even now, I research stuff and I'm learning all the time. And I'm always trying to find out why, if something's wrong or something works, why is it working? Why is it happening? So the body's always intrigued me. So obviously put that together with the training, then I like to help people. I like to help people progress in their life. So it went from just helping a few people in the gym to like, oh, actually, like, why don't I do this for a living?
Yeah.
And that's where it went on, And obviously, there's also a lot of bad coaches out there, and it used to upset me to see some like people get in the wrong hands, and I used to think, well, could do a better job than some of them,
Oh yeah, we've heard so many horror stories about all these bad coaches and what they can do to people. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on that. But that also brings me into probably my favorite question to ask, because it is, I mean, one of the biggest stereotypes, and I just love to bust it. But like I say before I ask it, it has gotten better the last 5 years with Instagram, but there's still so much work to be done, where there are still so many women that have that fear where if they go into the gym and they touch one weight, they're just gonna hulk out and put on 50 pounds of muscle. And I always say to that, I would sign that person up that next day, because they have found the secret that, I mean, every guy and a lot of women have been looking for. So yeah, they would be in such high demand. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, being a personal trainer and just looking the way that you look, a lot of people probably, when they come up to you for advice, they say, like, hey, I just don't want to, I'm afraid that I'm just going to get super huge and bulky. What do you respond to that when they tell you about that fear?
I always say to them, if it was that easy, I would have been trying 20 odd years to achieve just this. I mean, I'm not the biggest bodybuilder by far. There's girls who I compete with who are like 20 pounds heavier than me. But I personally never had that fear. I want to gain muscle. So you can flip that around to the ladies who say that and say, well, okay, then if you don't want to gain muscle, once I explain to them how difficult it is and how more muscle burns body fat, then it's just the uneducated part of it. I think it's people believe what they read all the time, and you have one weight session. That's you're not going to wake up in the morning like really big, just after today's weight session. And I think by the time I've trained a few times, then they understand.
Oh yeah, unfortunately, That is true, but I always like to tell, when I was in college, getting bigger and stronger, one of my really good friends, she would always come up to me and say, like, Ryan, I know you're putting on weight and, I want to go to the gym with you, but I'm afraid I'm going to get too bulky. And then I finally said to her, I said, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your person when we go out to clubs or we go out to eat weighs more than 90% of the dumbbells in the gym. You're not gaining an ounce of muscle from lugging that thing around 24/7. So that's what really convinced her as well. But I mean, the biggest thing that I think impacts women so much more than it does men when it comes to benefits from working out is the confidence boost that it gives them.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
men
yeah.
walk into the room. Let's face it. Sometimes they act like they own the gym already if they haven't even been there before, just because that's how some guys are.
Mhm.
But I mean, for women especially, I mean, all the stories that I've heard of women who've been inspired to do other things in their life just because of that. Because I always say the confidence boost is one of those things that you can actually take from the gym and from that lifestyle and adapt it to everything else in your life.
Certainly.
How has that confidence boost affected you when it comes to transferring it to just every aspect of your life?
I mean, I've been doing this over half my life
Yep.
anyway, but it hasn't had a massive impact on everything else in my life in a good way. I've never been frightened of going into a gym on my own. I mean, I used to train in men's only gyms, but it doesn't bother me walking in the gym on my own. Never has done.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of women, it does.
Yep.
But to see them change once they get the confidence, and then they start coming to themselves and start being a bit more confident, carrying themselves better. It's really nice to see, but it does have a big impact on your confidence.
Yeah.
Because you're doing things that you didn't think you would be able to do
Mm-hmm.
without getting ridiculed at doing it as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a huge one that we hear of all the time. Is just
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just having that being a lot more assertive and just being able to just do all that. So I mean, that's why I love to ask that question. But what is the number one excuse that you hear from potential clients as to how or why they can't adapt that health and fit lifestyle?
Probably they don't have time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like my answer to that is you sleep 6 to 8. What to do with the rest of them?
Mm-hmm.
If you work 8 hours, and most people are busy doing nothing. They say they're busy. Okay, what are you actually busy doing? And when they actually sit down and think about it, they're actually busy doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes 45 minutes to get a workout in. You could be, by the time you've thought about it,
Mm-hmm.
made excuses, you could have been in and out by now.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I mean, I always love to say I've had nurses on the show who work, like 16 to 18-hour shifts sometimes, and they still are able to
Yeah.
get a workout in. I mean, I've had, so many people that really just break that, where, like you said, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
so many people spend so much time just relaxing and stuff when they don't realize that really they take hours upon hours of their day out of just, sitting on their phone,
Mm-hmm.
watching TV when they could be working. So yeah, I always say that too whenever
Yeah.
I
And
hear
I've
that.
never always used to be a PT. I used to be in the police force.
All
And I
right.
also used to be a student nurse.
Yeah.
I've had jobs where I work 10-hour shifts, like
Mm-hmm.
on the beat. If where there's a will, there's a way,
Mm-hmm.
So if you really want to do something, then you will find a way to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you really don't want to do something, you'll make every excuse under the sun.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. But now we go to two of my other favorite questions that I love to ask, all the guests on my show. And for me, when I was working out, getting bigger and stronger, there were so many positive things that really came with that. There are also a lot of negative things too, or I wouldn't say a lot. There's probably just one negative is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents until I move out in a couple of months. And every time they come in with groceries, I mean, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway and carry in all the groceries. Has that been a similar experience with you where people just take one look at you and just assume that you can do favors like that for them?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, yeah. Even things like you say, lifting furniture when your people are moving house. You look strong. You can do this. Nope.
Yep.
I always just say back. This is just for show. It's not really
Yeah.
functional.
Well, and I always say, yeah, it's a double-edged sword for me because I mean, being 6'3", I could have zero muscle at all, and people just look at me and be like, "Oh yeah, tall guy can do it."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword. I mean, because I cannot tell you last summer. I mean, every other weekend would be a different person texting me, saying, "Come help me move my furniture." And it got to a point where I just said, "Okay, I'll help you move your furniture, but it has to be after I got my workout in because I'm not going to get sore and tired from moving your
Yeah.
furniture where I'm not able to work out then afterwards." So
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on that. But now my favorite question to ask out of this 2-question segment is, I mean, again, everyone, this is a multi-million-dollar idea before I ask it, so get on out there and get on it if you are getting inspired by this. But when it comes to clothes, I always love to say, yep, see, we get that reaction every single time. I always love to say, I mean, your clothing options are severely limited. Like if you have big, broad shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of that are just absolutely horrible. What are some ways that you sort of are able to compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be very, very limited?
Well, the good thing for me is with my job, I spend most of my day in my training clothes.
Mm-hmm.
hoodies, because over here in the UK it's freezing. So in the gym where we train at is really cold as well. I train covered up. Even through the summer, I'm always covered up. But when it comes to nice clothes, as in like if we're going to a wedding like we are next month, then it becomes a bit difficult. So but I'm quite lucky. My partner, she's a seamstress, so she makes my clothes.
That's clutch,
really
right
lucky
there.
that way. Yeah, so I'm so lucky that way. So
yeah. I mean, I cannot tell you how amazing that is, because I mean, I'm one of those people where I sweat. You know, I go through at least a gallon of sweat every one of my workouts. I mean, I could be naked and I'd work out and I'd still sweat. You know, a thing like I'm one of those things where it doesn't matter what I have. I mean, I'm just a huge sweater. So yeah, if I had like a sweater on, and if I had, you know, like short, kind of like what you wear when you work out, I mean, I would probably die just because I'm just one of those people where I just sweat so much. Has it just been a thing where your body's just gotten used to it, where it doesn't, you know, like you don't get super heated or you don't get super overexerted?
No, I do get hot, and I certainly get like overexerted, but it's such a cold environment, and I feel more safer when I'm wrapped up, like with my muscles are tighter and stuff. I've never been. I don't know. It's just one of those. I think it's one of those habit things you form.
So one of the questions that, I mean, I also love to ask, I mean, being from Minnesota, where, I mean, we get the coldest winters in the United States, at least by far. I mean, they did a study and it's by far the coldest, but for a place like England too, I mean, your winters aren't as bad as ours. I'm not talking trash, but it's just a fact. But I mean, still living in those cold environments where, I mean, it can get very, very cold, or, you know, like, especially when people think of England, they just think about, you know, how the sun never really shines. It's always cloudy all the time. It's always, you know, it's always sort of dour. But what are some ways that you're able to motivate yourself to still go in and still get that workout in, basically when your body's just telling you on those cold days, like, hey, let's just stay inside and wrap up in a blanket and just watch TV. Like, let's just relax a little bit. What are some ways that you're able to motivate yourself?
Because I want to be the best version of me I can ever be, basically. And sitting on my ass at home isn't going to achieve that.
Well, and having that mindset though too, I mean, because I have that too, especially when it comes to like podcasting, where I can guarantee this happened to you, where, I mean, you've had times where even when you're posing during a show, or when you're at a show, where you're just thinking like, oh, if I could have just done one more workout, or if I could have just done like one more thing. How are you able to deal with that mentally? Because I've had times too where I've released podcasts where I was like, oh, if I could have edited out that one thing, if I would have just realized that one thing might have needed to be edited. And it's like a minute thing that 99% of the people who watched it would never even notice, where I'm just like, oh, if I could just edit that one thing, it would make the podcast perfect. But how do you deal with that? And what are some ways that you use, like self-talk wise at least, to just realize that, like, hey, I did the amount of work that I had to do. I did all that I can do, and there's nothing more that I could have done into this.
I mean, you've got to be true to yourself, basically, at the end of the day. You've got to first off make sure that never happens. Never get on that stage thinking, I could have, should have, would have. Make sure you have done all them things, and then it's out of your hands. If you've give 100% every single day, that's all you can do.
Yep. I couldn't agree more with that. And that leads us into our audience favorite and my personal favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire where we're going to ask Wendy here about a dozen or so health and fitness questions that we ask all of our guests, and we're going to see how her answers stack up to everyone else that we've had on the show. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle.
Okay, that's the first time that we've heard that, and I cannot thank you enough for playing that. I mean, I'm one of those old school suckers that I have to have my old 80s cheesy music on, where, you know, I have like the entire Rocky IV soundtrack, which is the cheesiest soundtrack of all time. I don't debate me on that. It's true. But yeah, so I definitely need to have that. But I have a problem. So like, I have a gym at home, which is nice. So like 75% of the time, it's just one of those basic gyms where, you know, you have your equipment and you have a couple of barbells. But so I work out there, you know, like 75% of the time. But when I go to a normal gym, I mean, I'm one of those people where I got to wait for the beat to drop when I'm listening to music. So I've had times, you know, if I'm doing like a lat pull down, I might be like this for like 30 seconds. And I've had people come up to me and be like, hey man, are you all right? Did you like pull out your back or something like that? And I'm like, nope, just waiting for the beat to drop. So I am known throughout my gym as the guy that waits for the beat to drop. But hey, I'll take that. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
There's a guy, and I don't know if you know him. He's called Tom Platz, known as the Golden Eagle.
I've heard that name sounds familiar. Yeah.
He's from Arnold Schwarzenegger's era, but he's the most intensive guy ever. Very clever as well. I would love to train with him.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's called Tom Platz, the Golden Eagle.
All right, we got Tom Platz, the Golden Eagle. I'll make sure to write that down and make sure to look him up, because yeah, it sounds awesome. I mean, me personally, I train with Arnold just because it's Arnold, and secondly, I'd want to hear him yell at me in his Austrian accent, because that would be really, really funny for me. Absolutely. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Pink.
Pink? Yep.
Yeah.
She is up there. She's one of our most popular answers. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, for her it would be nice because you would have a very solid base to start from because she's already in really, really good shape. So yeah,
She's in good shape
yeah,
too.
that would be. I mean, believe it or not, though, I had a guest on who actually partied with her one night in Las Vegas. She was just at the bar, and Pink was there, and then Pink actually talked with her and had drinks with her for like 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, that's one of the cool Pink stories that I like to have. And then, so yeah, Pink has definitely been one of our more popular answers, 100%. But now going on, so what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Egg whites.
Yep. Yep, that is tied. I mean, that's getting close to being tied with chicken, which is our most popular answer. They're getting close.
Yeah, I was toying between chicken and egg whites.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so those are by far two. But the most surprising answer for me and interesting was mustard. I get mustard quite a bit too.
Really?
I'm surprised because it's like 0 in calories, 0 in fat. So a lot of the bodybuilders, they just love to douse their chicken and their eggs and mustard just to give it flavor. But I always say to that, if you have to do that, you might want to reevaluate your life and kind of realize where you went wrong. Because yeah, I was a mustard kid until probably about like 7, and then I moved on to ketchup. And I always say, people always say, "Oh, you can go do sugar-free ketchup," but that doesn't taste like regular ketchup.
No.
So yeah, if they could ever invent a ketchup that tastes just like the normal ketchup, has that many benefits for you as like mustard does when it comes to 0 calories, 0 fat, I would be one of the first people to buy it. But now, out of all your followers that you have on Instagram, what would you say would be the most surprising thing that people would find out about you if they met you in person?
Oh, I'm actually a drummer as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
A drummer. Okay, that leads into a whole different tangent now because I love having bands and musicians, like I said. So, what inspired you to become a drummer? What is that backstory?
I guess it was school. We used to be musical at school, and I used to actually play the clarinet as well. And I had this thing. I wanted to keep going on the drum kit and one day I got let on. They let me on, and then that was it. I was away. But I don't really have time now. But it's still there.
Well, I was gonna say that must be a hard thing to do, especially you probably can't even do it when you're in prep because just drumming alone, just that workout for your forearms and that workout for everything. I mean, you probably wouldn't be able to move anything in the gym then that very next day because it's just so. I mean, you have to have unbelievable stamina to be a drummer. I mean, that's why I've had just drummers on the podcast, and I've had drummers in bands, and I always love to ask them because, believe it or not, people. The drummers are the backbones of any band. They provide the backdrop. I mean, they provide the bass that everyone can go off of. So yeah, that is awesome. So that is definitely one thing that I would have never guessed too, is that you're a drummer. So that is awesome. But now if you had the all-knowing power to do so, what would be one thing that you'd want to see changed about the sport of bodybuilding?
To give the female bodybuilders what they deserve. Mm-hmm. And that's the same stage as the guys and the same prize money as the guys too.
Oh, 100%. And in my personal opinion, I think that the women should make more just because, let's face it, a lot of these crowds that go there are there for the women more than for the guys. I mean, there are not that many straight guys that are going to go to these shows just for the guy bodybuilders that go there. I mean, let's be completely honest here. So I think they have a little bit more of a draw power than especially the guys do. So yeah, that would definitely be one of those things that I would love to see changed as well. But now we go to the fun little part of our questionnaire. So what was the last TV show that you binge watched?
Power.
Power. Okay.
Yeah. Still in the middle of it right now.
Is it a UK show or is it just on Netflix?
No, it's an American one. It's on Netflix.
All right, what's it about?
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Oh, I think I might know what you're talking about then. Yeah. For me, I binge watched that that everyone's talking about because I had so many guests come on and they're like, oh, you have to see it, you have to see it. So then I finally 2 weekends ago in between podcasts, I had the last one of the day and then I didn't have one until tomorrow. I binge watched about half of it in the other day, and then the next day after that I binge watched the other half. But yeah, it was really, really good. But now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Prison Break, probably.
Prison Break? Ooh, that is a good one. Yeah, we have Prison Break on the board. For me, I mean, I'm the most basic person ever with a tie between Friends and The Office for me. Really, I mean, that's all. Okay. That's all. I mean, yeah, I'm one of those guys. Yeah, I totally get that. But now everyone has one. What is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Gladiator.
Gladiator. I was going to say I might have got that answer because when you said Gladiator Girl, I might have got. But yeah, Gladiator, is a great one. Did you hear that they're actually coming up with a sequel right now?
Really?
Yeah, they're coming up with a sequel, and I don't know if Russell Crowe is attached to it, just because if you look at him now, he is like about 80 pounds overweight, so I don't know if it would look good being the same Gladiator. But yeah, it's supposed to be set in like the afterlife, where I think the main character Maximus is like battle. I don't know what it's gonna be about exactly, but I read a little bit about it. But yeah, I know that they're working on a script right now, and I think it might have just been finalized, where they're gonna start shooting sometime in either the summertime or the fall, this coming fall. and have it released. But yeah, Gladiator for sure is mine, is yours. But again, all of my guy friends, close your ears. I'll never admit this in public, but for me, Princess Bride is my guilty pleasure movie. Where I mean, you'll never get me to admit it in public, but yeah, Princess Bride is definitely my guilty pleasure movie. But now, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Fashion trend, as in, see, it's different being a bodybuilder because I don't like. I'm not being one to follow trends.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I can answer that one really. You give me your. I give an example.
Okay, yeah. So for me, like flannel, just because being up here in the winter when it gets really, really cold, I mean, you're gonna have to have like something very, very warm like flannel. And my least favorite is, I mean, my dad ruined this in the late '90s, was fanny packs. My dad used to have one. And I said, no, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. Women can rock a fanny pack, but guys, let's be honest. And I know they're making a small comeback. So, I mean, other than the other messages that I like to spread on this podcast, if I could also make it so that, fanny packs, if I could stop the spread of fanny packs in any way, I would do whatever it takes. So yeah, those are definitely mine.
Okay. How about then waistcoats? Do you know what waistcoats
are? Yep.
Right, what's the point in them?
They're dumb. Yeah.
But they were out the same time as fanny packs, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's definitely one of those. But yeah, so now for our final question in the questionnaire, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
Never give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I would definitely say that too. So again, you guys, yeah, that's definitely one of our more popular answers. But yeah, it speaks true to everyone. So yeah, we're done now with the questionnaire. I like to ask these last few questions before we wrap things up. So do you have any plans to compete at all this year? Where are you at currently? Are you prepping right now, or are you bulking? What are you currently doing right now?
Well, the plan was I was going to take this year off. However, that's slightly changed now. So I'm looking to do the Romania Pro Show, which is in November. So that's like a qualifier for the Olympia. But next year, 2020 Olympia. So yeah, I start prepping about July time, like to do 20 weeks prep. So I'm currently bulking as we speak, but I don't get too out of shape. But progressive season.
Yeah,
I'd like to call it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and again, we wish you nothing but the best in that. Had they always had competitions in Romania, or is that a new thing? Because I think the last show that a lot of people went to was in Romania. So I was just wondering if that's becoming like a new thing.
Yeah, it was the first time. November just gone.
Okay.
So this is going to be actually the first time ever as a pro I can compete in Europe.
Yeah.
I've had to come to the States to compete as a professional. So this is the first time for me competing in Europe. So which would be nice. Yeah. So it saves money on flights and things too.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Now, being that you mentioned that, guys, what is your favorite thing about the United States, and what is your least favorite thing about the United States when you visit?
I love coming to the United States. I really do. And I love the fact that people are so friendly.
Yeah.
And like welcoming, and I can't even think what I don't like about it.
Maybe the food proportions or something like that. I don't know.
Oh no, that's all good. I think probably the hardest part for me is having the the logistics type of thing, getting from point A to point B without having to get in the car.
Because it's such a big country compared to England too. Yeah.
Can't just walk across the street to where you want to be, to the gym. You've got to drive everywhere. That's one thing. That's one thing a lot of our foreign exchange students when I was in high school were complaining about, because they said, everyone here has a car. Back in like Italy or Norway where they came from, it's like there's like 2 cars there's like 5 or 6 cars per town basically out of like 100 or so people. I mean, it's like not that many people drive, but here there are more cars than there are people for a lot of places. So I definitely get that too. But now, lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up? I guess all the shout outs I give out to the guys here in the UK. Max Muscle Gym, and all my friends here, my wife, my family, and my friends over in the States, Miss Kim Buck, Helly Trevino, Wings of Strength. Wings of Strength, the company that promotes the female bodybuilding now. So yeah, big shout out to them.
I've been trying to get Helly Trevino on the show, but she hasn't responded back to me. So if you're watching this, know that I sent you a message, and you better be getting back to me because I'd love to have her on the show as well. But again,
Let me speak to her.
yeah, well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So again, you guys, Wendy, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. I mean, it was really, really awesome talking to you, and we wish you nothing but the best. And honestly, everyone, go and give her a follow if you want to get inspired. I mean, just looking at some of her photos, you're gonna be like, wow, I need to get off the couch and stop eating some of these Twinkies and really get into shape. But again, you guys, go and give her a follow. I'll leave a link to all of her stuff down below. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.